Here on the Safe Haven podcast, any names mentioned should not be considered as suspects unless officially stated as such by law enforcement. Any opinions during interviews on this podcast are the opinions of the interviewee and don't reflect the opinions of the Safe Haven podcast or the AMU cold case team. Everyone is innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. Welcome everybody to this episode of Safe Haven, the unsolved murder of Judith Petty. It is good to be back again. It has been a minute since I've been on an episode or an interview, and yeah, I appreciate everybody not hating me for being absent.
Aww.
But obviously I am joined by my esteemed co-host, Melissa, my partner in crime over here. And yeah, it's been a wild month or so.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff going on. Yeah, this particular episode, though, is an interesting one because we have been getting a lot of grief, accused of a lot of things, including harassment, this, that, and the other, which I'm super glad that some people don't understand the definition of harassment because that's not what this is. But I don't know, we talked and we got this phone call in May or June? Like super early in the summer, I think.
Yes, it was over the summer, I believe we got this phone call. And it was a very exciting time. Well, actually, I made the phone call and then we followed back up with another phone call. But I just want to say hi, everyone. Welcome back before we get into it. And so Justin and I, we are here together, super excited. We saw each other at CrimeCon. We know that all of you saw our pictures. We got new, crime, wine in the line fans here. And so we're so excited that we got to meet you at CrimeCon, that you've joined our Facebook and follow our podcast. So welcome.
And that was your first year at CrimeCon.
It was. Right? Yes. And I absolutely loved it. I will be at Nashville, me and country music in Nashville and CrimeCon. It's a horrible mix, but it'll be so much fun. I will be stalking Tim McGraw if anybody wants to come with me. My restraining order should be over by then, and then I could go stalk Tim McGraw. So it'll be a really good time.
This episode is definitely, I don't want to say a groundbreaking one, but I think you guys will understand why we went the direction we went when we did. Because we were holding on to this audio for a long time, and we vetted the person. We vetted a couple different people. We went back and asked about the backgrounds of the individuals mentioned in this phone call. I think after listening to this, I think you guys will have a lot better understanding of why we went the direction we did. Melissa, what do you think?
Absolutely. And from our last episode with Jennifer, which we got a ton of feedback on, and really a lot of people really enjoyed that episode with Jennifer. So shout out to Jennifer for coming on and doing that and going to visit Kim. That took a lot of courage. And she continues to fight for us and for Judy. Yeah. And so we wanted to follow up and kind of pivot a little bit in this episode. And we thought that now is the perfect time. We have gone through a few episodes really focusing on Billy. And as we've mentioned before, for good reason, right? Given Billy's history, given the flags, the circumstantial evidence, if you want to, that make him the more likely person that was, involved in Judy's murder. But now we wanted to pivot a bit and focus on Mitchell. And the way that Mitchell comes into this is Billy himself mentions what happened to Judy and mentions Mitchell was the one who killed her. So you will hear in this recording Billy's own words, of course, coming from a second person, right? We know it's hearsay, but I will tell the listeners that this is a trusted person in Billy's life. So this was somebody that Billy trusted, that I don't believe there's too many details, and some of the details we're not going to share that makes this credible, right? You don't just call up somebody and say, hey, when you have no stake in the game, right? You're not going to call somebody up and say, hey, Mitchell killed Judy, and for shits and giggles, right? So there definitely is something behind what Billy said. And I will put this out there. The person that we're talking about is not Billy's ex-girlfriend. So I know that was some comments from the Wright family, Kim, Kansas, whoever may try to discredit this information thinking that it came from Billy's ex-girlfriend. It did not. So I wanted to just make that clear so that it can't be like, oh, well, she's just saying that it was not her.
The thing about the Wright family that cracks me up right now, and I'm not saying, obviously, any of them are guilty. I'm not saying any of them are innocent. But as an observer, they go to extreme lengths to discredit any single tiny little thing, and they make a lot of assumptions. For a person who investigates this stuff on the outside looking in, that's not a good look. It's not a good look at all.
Right.
You guys will see why we held on to this audio. Obviously, I have taken measures to make sure this person stays anonymous. Their voice will be changed because of the safety of this person. They are very concerned about their safety because of what they were told. And like Melissa had mentioned earlier, the reason we took this so seriously off the bat is because of the information, and we won't share all of it. We have given everything to the prosecutor's office, obviously, but for the listeners, there are some things that we will hold back in this episode because some of the details that were given are not publicly known, and it is very revealing, and it'll knock you back a little bit. And looking back, after Jennifer's interview and after our dealings with some of the Wright family, or our not dealings with them because they won't talk to us, there's a few things that are said in these phone calls where this person told us 6 months ago exactly how it was going to turn out, and that's how it turned out.
Yes.
Melissa, do you want to get us going on what we got going on here?
Yeah, so we're going to go ahead and start. We're going to play clips of the recording, and then Justin and I are going to talk about those clips just to give you some more insight or maybe more of a discussion about what was going on during that call, or a little bit more information, and then we'll continue on with the recording. So like Justin said, we're going to protect the identity of this person. I'm very excited to share this with everybody so you can see and understand why we've gone the way that we've gone. And again, when you're listening to this person, this is what Billy himself had told somebody. Okay, go ahead, Justin. Let's hear it.
He said that not him, but he said he knew who killed her up on top of the hill. He said that they went up there on a tractor, and when they killed her, John and Lon Wright came up there and burned her in the corn crib. He called it the corn crib, but she's actually burned underground, so nobody could see it because it was at night. Let's see, I don't know, Bob Wright was also involved with the whole situation up there. Let's see, also, he said that they were selling methamphetamine at the auction house through the concession stand, and they were trying to stop it, and that's how he was in danger a lot with his life, and that's how he lost his life. Now, as far as she goes, he told me that she went to a bar out by Reese's, and they picked her up, and then they went and took care of the problem. Obviously, she knew something. He didn't say what she knew, but she obviously knew or found out something about what was going on, and with the methamphetamines and everything going on out in that area. And she found out something, and they killed her because of that. And the Wright brothers are the ones that covered it up, but Mitchell and Johnny Wright was the ones that actually did it, actually killed her.
When you heard this on the phone call, what was your initial reaction?
Shock, and really just almost tearful. if you will. It sounds weird,
Mm-hmm.
but since we started this investigation and for 15 years, right, that no one has ever said anybody has killed Judy. We've never heard for sure so and so killed Judy, right? And so to hear that Billy said who killed her, how they killed her, in the sense of, throwing her in the chicken coop, which he clarifies for everybody, right? That's the cellar.
The
So
corn crib.
the corn crib. Thank you. Yeah. So this person was saying how she was, who killed her, and then also going into how she was burned, right? Into the, what do you call it, Justin?
The corn crib.
The person does go in then and explain that that's what Billy called the cellar. And it talks about it being underground. So I was really in shock and very tearful. And I reached out to all of you like, oh my God, this, because I was expecting this, right? I was just making phone calls like I do, right? I'm just calling people, hey. And then to get this phone call, and this person just flat out says, well, Billy told me Mitchell killed her and Bob and Lon threw her in the, corn crib or the cellar. I was like, we've never heard that at all.
Yeah.
So that, I couldn't believe it.
When I heard the recording, because I remember you messaging us in our group chat in real time as you're talking to this person.
Yes.
It was so funny because me and Jen are like, calm down, keep going, quit messaging us, like, stop messaging us, concentrate on this. Looking back, that was one of the few amusing parts about this phone call, because you lost your mind. And then when the rest of us heard it, we lost our minds, because we were like, oh my God, this, and the information, like I said, that this person provided, there's information that's not publicly known. Mm-hmm. And that's what all struck us, I think, about the same. I don't want to speak for Jen and George and Alan, but I'm pretty sure we all can agree that the information provided was pretty damning.
Yeah, it was. And just like we were saying, in all of our, year or so, year and a half of investigation, even 15 years, Billy's name, Mitchell's name, Bob, right? Nobody was listed in the case file. These names were never mentioned as being involved at all in Judy's case. So when you get on a phone and someone says, well, Billy told me exactly what happened, you're like, holy shit. I mean, like I said earlier, you don't just say that if it's not true, right?
And part of it too was that person gave us the explanation as to why some of that stuff was not in the case file. That right there too blew me away.
Yes.
It made perfect sense.
Yes. So we'll get to that. Yeah, we'll get to that. This was a great conversation. So we will talk a little bit more about, we'll just keep playing clips, and I think there's more in there about this walk or her being at the bar.
Yes.
Well, excuse me, Lon Wright was the one in charge of the situation. Lon Wright, his brother, I think it's his twin brother, and Bob Wright, which was his little brother, were the ones that were running the whole situation out there, and that Lon was in control of it all. I had this discussion with Billy sometime in, I think it was 12, because that's when he found out that he was in danger with his life. He couldn't move out because they had some, connections with Kimberly. He had a connection with Kimberly. She was running all the financials through the auction house, and that a lot of things were happening at that time. Like his house got broken into, and they stole a safe that was 5.5 foot high, 4 foot wide, and about 2.5 foot thick. They had to cut the wall out to get the safe out. That's when that happened around 12. Is when we had all these discussions.
So, Justin, what do you think about that clip?
I think it lets people, the listeners, and everybody else know specifically a lot more of why we went the direction we went. And the fact that we don't go on unfounded quests to harass anybody. as we move on in this episode, you are going to realize when we get in depth with the rest of the call and the recording, I think you guys will get it. But again, it makes sense. Like Billy had called this person, was in fear for his life. He didn't want meth being ran out of his auction house anymore. He had had stuff stolen out of his house. And he specifically names a certain family and several members in that family. So that's what I think about it.
And it's interesting, and we haven't gone too much into the Wright family in regards to the dealings of marijuana, pills, meth.
Yeah.
But we do know for sure that, we have heard people have told me individually that they bought pills from Kansas out of the auction house. I've heard that from a couple of people who actually bought from her. So we haven't gone into too much down that road because that really wasn't in relation to Judy's murder, right? So we were trying to focus more on Judy's murder. And did any of this have any relation to that? And what's interesting in this clip is that, Billy himself mentioned Lon and Bob and Lon running the drug business, if you will,
yes.
Which we've heard before that they have a lot of marijuana. It was, state to state kind of thing. They were providing plants. Mr. Petty saw plants, knew that was happening near their property with Tom Sams, right? That's not new information at all. But what I find interesting is that, Billy mentioned this to this person in 2012. And we know Billy committed suicide in 2015. And I've talked to a few people who say Billy was really afraid of Mitchell. And he was afraid to really make any moves in regards to leaving the area, upsetting Kim, and because maybe he knew too much, right? And there was some concerns financially. So Kim managed all the books, which I'm well aware of, that she was kind of the decision maker of money and decisions in the family, if you will.
That's what they would call the shot caller.
I was just going to say that. That's exactly
That's the shot caller, man.
Yeah, she definitely was. And so, there was fear that Billy had mentioned to a couple of people that he bought a gun because he was afraid of Mitchell and Johnny Forshey, who I know that we've talked about before, which is Mitchell's cousin, because they would always, back in 2012, Mitchell was in meth. So we'll just say that in 2008, my understanding from everybody we talked to, Mitchell hadn't started the meth yet. He was doing the pills, but not meth. And so by 2012, Mitchell is full blown into meth, heroin, those kinds of things. Mm-hmm. So his personality is going to be very different. And Billy could have been afraid of him by then. There was discussion that Billy was afraid of Mitchell because Mitchell was holding things over his head, or there was these secrets within this family. So I found that all very interesting. And again, I've heard many times that Billy was out with Kim somewhere in Ohio, and that's when his house got broken into.
Yes.
And this big safe,
ironically enough,
is removed. And I think this person talks more about that later. So that's kind of what I took away from the clip. It just kind of gives you an idea of what was going on within this family and within Billy and Kim and kind of this drug world that they lived in.
Yeah. And I'll be perfectly honest with everybody. Like, when it comes to like weed operations with decriminalization and legalization, like, I've been a huge advocate for that for a long time. So nobody gives a shit about weed or marijuana, all right? Meth, on the other hand, is way different. What I do care about is murder. And pills, methamphetamine, they can alter your state. They can alter your judgment. They can make you do things that you would never normally do.
Not at all. And I think that's important to know is that, people had said, well, Mitchell just wasn't that kind of person, right? He wasn't somebody who was violent. He didn't fight. He backed away. He ran. Which is all very true, but when you're on pills, of the number of pills that Mitchell would take, I think you have to take
Absolutely.
into consideration is he was been described as chewing them, which is a ton of one after another, one after another. At that point, it is going to alter you, right? And give
Yes.
you a different personality. And we just don't
Yes.
know what happened. And so I take what Billy's saying serious and into consideration. And we have to.
Yeah, that stuff will change a person for sure.
Absolutely. Okay.
Did anybody ever talk to Mitchell's wife? Because she apparently, Mitchell and them got divorced. Mitchell and her got divorced. She lived in town. He says he lives in town with on 7th Street. But as I recall, her name did come up when we were discussing stuff. I don't really know her name. He just said that Mitchell's wife knows a lot of stuff because she got divorced. They got divorced, and that was another thing that drove them into this situation. Because she was directly involved, from what he told me, before Mitchell and her got divorced. That's when it all pretty much started. I don't know exactly when they got divorced, but I know they got 2 children, and she lived in town. That's what he told me on 7th Street. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but that's exactly what he told me, that she was involved. Also, Billy also told me that Kimberly was involved with a lot of stuff, but he couldn't nail it down. But she seems to know a lot of things about what's going on.
Can I ask you, when you're talking about the first wife, is that Peggy?
Like I said, I don't remember her name. I really don't remember her name. It was the first wife that he had, and they got divorced, and she moved in town with the 2 kids. I forget her name. She knew a lot about what went on around that time, with how Mitchell was and what was going on with the family and everything else, and that she had to get away from him because she just didn't want to have parts of it anymore.
This was really interesting and helpful when this person mentioned Mitchell's first wife. So we've talked about this before. His first wife is Peggy. They had 2 kids together, and they did end up separating around this time. And I think we talked about that when we were looking at Billy Mitchell's red flags, if you will. And one of the things that we have heard is that she ended up leaving Mitchell because his behavior changed so significantly after Judy's murder. And so the question was, did his drugs increase and change because of what happened out there? And this information solidified for me that there is a correlation. So before this phone call, we really didn't have anything to kind of back up that Mitchell's behavior did change because of Judy's murder. But now when you look back and after many conversations, it makes it very clear that the marriage was falling apart and Mitchell's behavior was significantly different. And it wasn't a few months afterwards. It was pretty quick afterwards. So Judy was murdered in February, and it was not, I think his first wife left shortly by the end of February, March. I mean, it was pretty quick.
Yeah.
At that time, he was popping pills and eating them like candy. And so and stealing too. So we often also, for listeners who have to go back and re-listen, or let me just kind of let you know, Mitchell would steal property at night. So he would scope places out during the day and then go up on properties, even if people live there, and steal things to help support his drug habit. And so again, you're talking about his uncle who lives, very close to the Petty farm. You can get there from walking, you can get there from ATVs, which we know Mitchell had. And you have a cellar that is underground that is a great place to hang out. And if you want to do drugs, no one's up there, right? And things were being stolen from the Petty property up until after Judy's death when it stopped. So what did you think from that clip, Justin?
That one was interesting. This person keeps giving, as the phone call progresses, this person keeps giving more insight.
Yes.
And starts getting more in depth.
Yes.
And that's what we're going to start realizing as we go forward. So whether it's a person's personality or what was going on in their personal life around the time of Judy's murder, it's all important. Like, we have to take all of this into consideration. So that's pretty much where I'm at with it and what I take from it. Because when I initially heard these after everything happened, it took a lot to process. And we had these, like I said, 6 months ago, 7 months ago, we had these recordings. It diverted our attention to where our attention is now. And when we re-listened to these just recently, within the last couple of weeks,
Yes,
I was sitting there listening, and I remember I was texting you, and I'm like, I forgot so much of these conversations. Oh my God,
yeah, you texted me. It was like, holy shit, this is a fucking gold mine. I mean, it was so adorable and I was like, really? I have to listen to it because it has been forever. But when I went back and listened to it, it was like, we have to put this out now. And the other reason for us deciding to do this is because Billy also deserves a voice, right? So we focused on Billy.
Yes.
We each have our own personal opinion and you'll hear that Billy was involved in this murder somehow or another. Okay. Either he was there or he knew about it, as he puts himself there. And you can hear, if you hear this person talking, this is Billy's words. Okay. So this is, you have to keep that in mind. This is actually coming from Billy. So I think it's important, regardless of if I believe Billy was responsible or not, he still deserves a voice even after death. And so, I wanted just to say that because we have a lot of criticism, right, of us focusing too much on Billy or the guy's dead. He can't defend himself. Well, that's what Kim's supposed to do, and she's not doing it. Yeah. So I won't go on that whole soapbox, but we will give Billy a voice, and his voice says her son killed her, and it's consistent each phone call. So each phone call. Yep, I talked to this person 2 times, actually 3, and each time asking questions, same answers, same details. So that tells me, right, when you talk about credibility, the person's not changing the story, not adding, not taking away. When I ask questions and the person doesn't know, they will say, he didn't say that. I don't know. I can't speculate. And that tells you it's a good, credible person. So
yes, because this person does do that.
Yes.
Like, we'll ask certain questions. Melissa asks certain questions. And this person straight up will be like, I don't know. I can't say anything about that. Billy never mentioned anything about that. So that's part of it for me too. So I'm right on board with you.
Awesome.
I'd say this was going on, in my opinion, right around the time because he was not involved. He was involved with the original things. I don't know exactly when. I'd say it was closer to 2004 is when things were really starting to hit the fan. And then they just escalated into problems with, Billy told me there were around 5 people that got killed around that time. Around 5 people got killed. He didn't say their names. He said that there was around 5 people got killed about that time. And that the one sheriff that was up there, that lives up there in Deer Walk, that was handling all the intervention for them. And that's why it was so difficult for him to get out of it or stop it or whatever, because he was really afraid because of what was going on with the intervention, with the sheriff that was running everything, keeping everybody so nobody would ever get in trouble. He told them also how Billy said, well, Bob told me back in 6 that his friend that was the cop told him never keep anything in the house, always keep it out in the corn crib, not corn crib, but out in the shed, out of the house. That way, if they ever get busted, if somebody ever did come in here, they couldn't take their property. They couldn't take their home from them. And that's where they always keep things. They all have, if you really look at where Lon Wright and his brother John and Bob Wright lived, they all got outbuildings. That's where they transport and keep and store all the items that they don't want people to know anything about. As long as you don't lock those buildings, he said, Bob told me this for himself. As long as you don't lock the buildings, then they can't take my house if I get busted. So I can have anything out here they want, and that is that.
My whole thing with that is I understand the legalities of what's going on here because there's plausible deniability. So if you do not keep your stash, keep your guns, keep whatever inside your home, and you have it in an outbuilding, that is unlocked, you have plausible deniability. You can always go back and say, well, I didn't put that stuff in there. It was unlocked. Somebody else might have done it. Somebody else probably did it. When it came to growing weed, if people are growing weed 90% of the time, unless they have some kind of indoor operation, it's on a property line. Because you can always go back and say, that's not mine. I'm not growing it. It must be them over there. You know, the possession is 9/10 of the law. And when he said that, when I was listening to that, I was just, holy shit. If you think about it, how many random everyday people know that? Not many.
No.
But I can guarantee you cops know that, you know?
Yeah. Or people who are
Prosecutors
friends
know
with
that.
cops. So this whole section blew my mind. And let's explain a little bit for context. So the sheriff or the cop that this person's referring to is our good old friend, Westfall.
Yep.
And Westfall
absolutely
was the main detective on Judy's case in 2008. Westfall lived out there. According to this person, as we get into, Westfall was in the right's pocket in regards to marijuana and pills selling, and that Westfall would protect the rights for kickback. So when you hear this information from Billy, and he has this information, it is mind-boggling, and it makes complete sense to me why Billy, Bob, Mitchell, Lon, John are nowhere in Judy's case file.
Crazy how that works, huh, Melissa?
It's interesting because I remember talking to Westfall, and he specifically told me that they and his deputies went door to door when Judy was missing, and when she was found. And where are those notes? There's no notes in the case file that they went knocking door to door. And who lives 2 houses away from the petty property? Billy. So why is there no interview with Billy as to, did you hear anything? Did you see anything? And I spoke to many, many people out there on Deer Walk Highway who said, nobody ever came to our door. We're actually shocked no one came and talked to us at all. So it has me wondering why. Why did Westfall not fully investigate this as he should have? And he gave us the excuse, and I'll admit it. I give people the benefit of the doubt until proven wrong, and it's probably a weak thing that I have in me. But he flat out lied, and he said, I'm not a detective. I'm just a road cop. I really don't know. And I was like, that makes sense to me, right? I mean, had no idea the level of corruption. But the other thing I found interesting on this is when he's talking about the property and not locked and keep it outside. Where's the perfect place for that? The cellar.
Yep.
You have right there, you have a property that is, nobody lives there. The putties aren't up there at night. You know, it's underground.
Yeah. And it's not just you giving somebody the benefit of the doubt. We all did.
That's true.
All right. Because he was the first person who responded, who got in contact with us and tried diverting us on a different path. After hearing that information, when we did, it kind of clicked in all of our brains like, okay, well, now we kind of know why that happened the way it happened.
Yeah.
And that's why we cannot stress enough, like, we don't try to get tunnel vision. Like, we have a list of people of interest. We grade them on percentages. You have a certain list of people. Some percentages are higher than others. You know, Westfall was not on top of the list, but I think we all kind of inadvertently was like, man, he's really willing to talk to us, and, you know, he's leading us down this way or diverting attention or whatever. But when we got this call, it really sunk. It really sunk in.
It
and
did.
It made perfect sense, though. It really did, because we never heard any of these names in the case file, or never read any of the names.
No, and then you put 2 and 2 together, and then I actually heard from, Billy's ex-girlfriend again, who said she remembers the one time Billy, well, not the one time, I take that back, but the time he slapped her in the face or punched her in the face driving down the road, and Billy Sr. and Billy and her were in the car. She got out of the car and started to walk, and a sheriff or a cop picked her up and was like, he's a good person. It'll be fine. Walk it off. I'll take you right there. Like, he never asked her, do you want to file a report? What, like, it was more like, and she knew at that point, she said to me, I knew I couldn't call the cops, because it was kind of, and we hear that unfortunately all the time, unfortunately, with victims of domestic violence or things of people not believing, right? And I got some feedback about, how do you know that she was actually raped? Well, because I believe her, because you don't just, have those details and talk about it in that way and still be traumatized. And
you can tell when somebody's traumatized by a situation.
Right.
100%.
Right. And so, so that was interesting. And then it started all clicking. And then you look and you're like, Westfall did have a mom who lived out there on Deer Walk Highway. Holy shit. Yep. And then you have these specific details of Billy saying, hey, we were told this. Don't keep your stuff here. The Petty Farm is the perfect place to keep shit.
Nobody's there.
No.
Like I said, it's plausible deniability, man.
And the property's huge, everybody. So I'm not saying the Petties could come up and not know that shit's still going on. I mean, Mitchell himself is making meth out of, in bottles. That doesn't take a lot of shit to make it, where you don't even know what's happening. Right?
Yeah.
So
you need a backpack and a few Gatorade bottles.
And that's how he made it.
Make it happen.
And that's how he made it. So, it
shake and bake method.
Yeah, I'm learning a lot. Shake and bake method. It was interesting. So that clip right there again validated that this person talking to us had information that only Billy would know, because this person does not live in Parkersburg.
Yep.
So they're not going to know. And I don't know if we get to the clip or not, but this person didn't even know Westfall's name until I mentioned it. So that just shows this person's not from the area. So how would they get this information unless Billy said it himself?
Absolutely.
The cop that we were talking about last time was Westfall, correct?
I recall something like that. I think that's the name, but I'm not quite sure. Billy told me that he lived out there on Route 31 in Deer Walk, in that area, close to Bull Run Road, so that he could always be in interference for any situation that popped up. He'd be the first one, or he would be able to take over any investigation to run interference for those guys. That's what Billy told me. Billy was running all the stuff coming in from, he would go get the stuff from yard sales and estate sales and haul it. He had some guy that worked with him, and they had a truck, and he said that they picked stuff up. I got a big load today, and was over here. Then he takes it through, cleans it up, priced it, and put it out. He's getting ready for an auction, and that's what he had said. And but as far as all the financials, Kimberly did all the banking, and Kimberly did all the concession and all the like when an item was sold. What item was it? Item 101. She would write down item 101. Who bought it? Whoever bought it, for how much? Because then she would, calculate how much their money would be, or the percentage of whatever they got, whatever they would take from each item that was sold.
And as far as seeing too much or knowing too much or anything about, you don't know exactly what that would mean as far as Judy's end of it?
My opinion is, Billy said she found out, now she knows she knew too much. That's all he said. That was it. And they killed her. Mitchell killed her. And that was all he said to me. And I said, well, were you there? Did you do it? And then he didn't say he was there, but he said they went up there in a tractor, and that, and they, I don't know how he figured out with John and Lon and them are the ones that burned her up, but he knows more. He knew more than what it was, and I feel that he didn't tell me, but I'm pretty sure he knew more than what he was letting on, just like Mitchell. They all know everything, and the thing is, everything funneled through Kimberly, because Kimberly was the the ears and the mouth of the whole situation. It's a miracle that, you know, she's still kicking.
So as far as Billy's telling you this, he never explained how he knew this, or
he just said that she found out and knew too much. That's why they killed her. That was it. That was it. And that's when he told me that. That was it. As far as anything else, no.
Are you aware of any other people during this time frame that were running with this group?
No. Billy was the only one that told me Mitchell was involved, and that was it. I don't know anything about what anybody else was doing because I wasn't there and I didn't hear anything.